Billionaire CEO notices girl with empty lunchbox. What he finds inside breaks his heart. He saw her sitting alone. A faded blue lunchbox, no food, just silence. She smiled when he asked, "I bring the box so no one knows I don't have anything." He opened it. No sandwich, no fruit, just a note. "I'm sorry. I promise I'll send something tomorrow." The billionaire who'd built an empire on numbers. I couldn't hold back the tears. Because sometimes, a child's empty lunchbox carries more truth than any boardroom ever will. Jack Turner never expected to cry over a lunchbox. But there he was. CEO, billionaire, man of steel reputation, kneeling in front of a little girl with braids, who smiled like the world hadn't forgotten her yet. He asked her, "What's for lunch?" She giggled. "Magic fries, invisible soup, and the best sandwich in town." There was nothing in her box, just air. An imagination. Still playing along, Jack asked for a table. She nodded solemnly. "Emily's restaurant is always open, even if we're out of ingredients." He reached for the lunchbox. She hesitated, but let him. Inside, there was no food, only a single crumpled piece of paper. A note in careful handwriting. "I'm sorry. I promise I'll send something tomorrow." His throat tightened. He'd signed off on a dozen charity checks this year, built community centers, sponsored scholarships, all from behind a boardroom desk. But this wasn't charity. This was survival, dressed in make-believe. Emily didn't look embarrassed. Didn't ask for anything. She served him pretend food like it was real, like she had pride to protect. Jack sat with her through recess, playing customer. He told her it was the best sandwich he'd ever had. She beamed. "It's the chef's secret." And when the bell rang, she closed her empty box with great care. "The restaurant's closed now. Come back tomorrow?" He nodded, quietly, firmly. "I will, I promise." And for the first time in years, Jack Turner made a promise that had nothing to do with business, and everything to do with something he'd almost forgotten. What it means to be human. Chapter 1. The Girl with the Empty Lunchbox. Jack Turner didn't know what pulled him into the cafeteria that day. Maybe it was the laughter echoing faintly down the hallway, or maybe it was the silence beneath it. The kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from someone trying to hide. He saw her before she saw him, a little girl in braids sitting at the farthest table. No one beside her, no tray. Just a battered blue lunchbox between her elbows, like it held something precious. She was talking to herself. No, not talking. Pretend. "Sir, your soup is coming right up," she whispered, placing an invisible bowl on an invisible tray. She poured air from an empty juice box like it was crystal punch. Carefully. It was a restaurant, her restaurant. And she was the chef, the waitress, and the only customer. Jack approached slowly. "Do you have room for one more?" She looked up, startled, but didn't shrink back. "Of course," she smiled, sliding a second paper napkin across the table. "Welcome to Emily's. Our lunch special is everything." He sat, awkward in his tailored suit at the tiny table. But she didn't notice the difference. She only noticed the play. "What would you like?" she asked, eyes wide, proud. "Whatever the chef recommends." She giggled, then opened her lunchbox. Just a crack. He caught a glimpse, just one. There was nothing inside. Nothing, except a single piece of paper. She closed it too quickly for him to read, but he saw the handwriting. "I'm sorry. I promise I'll send something tomorrow." He didn't speak. Couldn't. She handed him an invisible sandwich. "Be careful, it's hot." He pretended to eat. "Delicious." Her face lit up like he meant it. Maybe he did. "Come back tomorrow?" she asked, almost shy. He nodded. "I will." And for the first time in a very long time, Jack Turner made a promise that had nothing to do with contracts or closing deals. He left that school with something inside him cracked open, and something else, beginning to breathe. That night, he couldn't sleep. The penthouse windows stretched floor to ceiling, but the skyline meant nothing. All he saw was a little girl pouring pretend soup from an empty juice box. Her fingers so careful, her voice so bright. A note in her lunchbox that sounded like a whisper from a mother's heartbreak. "I promise I'll send something tomorrow." What kind of world makes a child pretend not to be hungry? By sunrise, he was at a grocery store. He didn't send an assistant, didn't call his driver. He walked the aisles himself, filling a new lunchbox with things no child should ever have to go without. A real sandwich, fresh fruit, a juice box, and a brownie, wrapped in gold foil. He bought 2 of everything. He didn't know what her little sister liked, but he was sure she existed. When he returned to the school, the secretary didn't ask questions, just smiled and said, "She's in the same spot. Same corner, same braid, same old lunchbox. Still empty. Still pretending." "Restaurant still open?" he asked. She looked up, surprised, and grinned. "You came back. Told you I would." He placed the new lunchbox in front of her. It was bright blue, with tiny stars printed on the lid. She opened it slowly, like it might disappear if she moved too fast. Her fingers hovered over the sandwich, the juice, the brownie. "Is this real?" "Only the best from Chef Emily." She blinked back tears, but smiled bravely. Then, "I'll save the brownie for my sister. She's littler than me." Jack's throat burned. "Your mom, she works a lot?" Emily nodded. "She sewed my shoes back together last night, and she makes soup from chicken bones. But it's not real chicken, just the bones." She said it like it was magic, like it was enough. She used to work at a big store, but it closed. Jack swallowed hard. "Do you know what it was called?" She thought. "Turner Markets." He froze. His name, his company, his responsibility. That night, Jack sat alone in his office, eyes scanning the termination logs. Rachel Miller. 9 years, no write-ups, no complaints. Laid off, no relocation offer, signed by him. His hand, his pen, his choice. He had taken away her job, and unknowingly taken the food from a child's plate. A mother's promise had become a child's illusion. He sat in the dark long after the screen went black. And when the silence finally broke, it came from the smallest voice in his memory. "Come back tomorrow?" He would. But next time, he wouldn't just bring lunch. He would bring the truth. Chapter 2. She's not just a number. Rachel Miller didn't have time to cry. Not when Lily was tugging at her shirt asking for crackers. Not when the landlord's letter sat unopened on the counter. Not when she had 2 hours before her next cleaning job. She wiped her hands on her jeans, leaned over the stove, and stirred a pot of watered-down broth. Emily peeked in, her braid messy from school, her hands behind her back. "Saved you something." Rachel turned, weary but curious. Emily held out half a brownie wrapped carefully in a napkin. "From Jack. He brought me a new lunchbox. It has stars on it." Rachel knelt slowly. "Who's Jack?" "My restaurant's first customer." Rachel smiled, tired, real, and just a little heartbroken. "And you shared your dessert." Said, "Every good chef deserves to eat real food sometimes." Rachel blinked hard. He's right. But inside, she was spinning. Lunchbox? Brownie? Stranger? That night, after the girls were asleep, Rachel sat on the edge of her bed, the same bed she'd nursed Lily through fevers and read stories to Emily on nights when they had no electricity. She opened her drawer and pulled out the only thing she kept from Turner Markets. A worn name tag. Rachel M. Senior Cashier. 10 years. Gone in a click, an email, cold as winter. She still remembered that line. "Due to corporate restructuring, your position has been eliminated. We regret the inconvenience." Inconvenience. Was that what hunger was called now? The next day, Jack sat in his glass tower, but his mind was in a school cafeteria. While the board discussed closing 3 more stores, he saw Emily pouring imaginary soup. He raised his hand. "Before we move forward, I want to understand the impact of these closures." The room fell silent. The executives exchanged glances. One cleared his throat. "Sir, these are standard transitions. Staff will be managed via protocol." "Which protocol?" Jack asked. "The one where we send emails and forget their names?" He stood, palms flat on the table. "I want every store report, every name, every impact log, starting with the East Side closure." Someone scoffed quietly. Jack ignored it. "We're not just moving boxes. These are people. Mothers, kids. We've forgotten that. That night, Jack drove to the address the principal had given him. A small walk-up, faded paint, plastic flowers in the window, a tricycle by the stairs. Rachel answered the door in a faded sweatshirt, her hair pulled back. Lily on her hip, Emily peeking behind her. She looked at him, not like the girl did, but like a woman who had been through too much to trust a smile. "You're the Lunchbox man?" He nodded. "Jack Turner." Silence. Rachel's eyes narrowed slightly. "As in Turner Markets?" Jack's jaw clenched. "Yes." He could see it hit her, like ice under the skin. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. "I didn't know when I first met Emily, I swear. I didn't come here out of guilt." She stepped back. "But not far." "Then why?" "Because I saw her lunchbox," he said. "And I saw the note inside. And I couldn't unsee it." Rachel exhaled slowly. "You signed the closure order, didn't you?" He nodded. "Yes. You cost me my job." "I know. You made me write those notes." He looked at her, eyes open. No defense. No power games. "I know," he said again, softer. "And I'm sorry." Rachel turned her face away, blinking fast. "I don't want charity, Mr. Turner. I'm not offering it." He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a folded document. "There's a new store opening. Mid-city. I want you to manage customer operations." Rachel laughed, bitter, almost broken. "I was a cashier." "No," he said. "You're a mother who taught her daughter how to hold her head high when the world gave her nothing. That's leadership." Silence. In the other room, Emily giggled. Lily squealed. Rachel's voice dropped. "If I take this, I want to earn it. No favors." "No favors," Jack said. "Only the future, if you'll have it." That night she sat at the kitchen table, the offer in her hands. And beside it, the napkin wrapped half of the brownie Emily had saved for her. She took a bite. It wasn't just chocolate. It was dignity. It was the beginning of something real. Chapter 3. The Man Who Changed the Menu. Jack stood in front of the mirror, trying to fix the stubborn crease on his collar. He didn't know why it mattered. He'd attended board meetings in tailored suits without blinking, but today? Today he was visiting a grocery store opening. One store, one woman. One promise. Rachel stepped onto the sales floor with new black flats and a borrowed blazer. Her name tag now read, Rachel Miller, Customer Experience Manager. She stared at it for a second before pinning it over her heart. In the past, she'd been the one told when to take her breaks. Now she was the one people looked to for answers. Jack arrived mid-morning. No entourage, no photographers, just him. He walked through the sliding doors and spotted her instantly. Rachel giving directions to a team of young employees near the organic produce section. Calm, firm, kind. She saw him, and for a brief second their eyes locked. No words. But something passed between them. Pride. And something else. Maybe hope. During the break, they stood in the employee lounge, sipping black coffee in silence. Rachel finally spoke. "It still feels strange, being on this side of things." Jack smiled gently. "You belong here." She raised an eyebrow. "Because I cleaned houses for 2 years? Because you kept feeding your kids? Even when there was nothing to give?" He hesitated, then reached into his briefcase and pulled out a printed sheet. "I've been thinking about starting a school lunch initiative inspired by Emily. I want your input." Rachel scanned the paper, then looked up slowly. "You're really doing this?" "We can't rewrite every mistake," he said. "But maybe we can write something better next." She smiled. "Small, tired, but real. Then let's do it." That Sunday, Jack showed up at their door again. Emily opened it this time, apron on, a wooden spoon in one hand. "We're making pancakes. You're late." Rachel laughed from the kitchen. "Don't scold the guest chef." Jack stepped in, the scent of vanilla and butter already wrapping around him like warmth. He helped set the table. Lily sat on his lap during breakfast. Emily showed him her new notebook of recipe ideas. After they ate, Rachel handed Jack a plate to dry. "If you're going to eat with us, you'll have to help with dishes." "That's fair," Jack said, rolling up his sleeves. She smiled, and this time she didn't look away. Later that evening, Jack found himself sitting on their worn couch, surrounded by drawings taped to the wall. Emily had drawn another version of her restaurant. This time there was a big table. At it sat Rachel, Emily, and Jack. In crayon above them, she'd written, "Love is what we serve." Rachel saw him staring at it and said quietly, "She makes it look easy." "She learned from you," Jack whispered. Their eyes met. No grand declaration, just quiet understanding. The kind that grows slowly. People, the kind that stays. That night, as Jack drove home, he didn't think about numbers, mergers, or profits. He thought about Emily's crayon world and the woman who had changed his. Chapter 4. The Empty Chair at Dinner. Rachel stirred the soup slowly. The kitchen smelled of rosemary and roasted chicken. Lily was drawing stars on the tiled floor with chalk. Emily was unusually quiet, sitting at the table, tracing the rim of her cup with her finger. Jack wasn't coming tonight. Ben said he had meetings, Rachel offered gently, placing a napkin by Emily's bowl. The little girl nodded, her braid swaying, but didn't look up. "It's okay, he's busy. Important people are always busy." Rachel sat beside her, brushing a crumb from the table. "Onch, promise he'd come for dinner this week, maybe tomorrow?" "It's not the same," Emily said softly. He didn't say goodbye. Across the city, Jack sat in a silent boardroom. Graphs, percentages, expansion models. But all he could see was a little girl with sad eyes, and a chair left empty at a table that mattered more than any deal he could ever sign. He had promised, and he broke it. Rachel tucked Emily into bed that night. Lily was already asleep, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. The apartment was quiet. Before leaving the room, Rachel noticed the drawing Emily had left on her pillow. It was their dinner table, with one chair drawn in dashed lines. Empty. Labeled softly in pink crayon, Jack's place. The next morning, Jack didn't wait for his driver. He packed a bag of groceries himself, fresh tomatoes, handmade pasta, strawberries, and a chocolate bar with a note. "Rain check on dinner tonight." He arrived before sunset. Rachel opened the door in a plain t-shirt, surprised. "I wasn't expecting." "I missed my seat," Jack said, holding up the groceries like an apology. Dinner was simple but full of laughter. Emily served water in wine glasses and insisted they say a toast. "To people who come back," she said, holding her cup high. Rachel met Jack's eyes across the table. There was no resentment in hers, fully understanding. And maybe something softer. After the girls went to sleep, Rachel walked Jack to the door. He paused, his hand on the doorknob. "I never meant to miss dinner." "But you did," she replied. Her tone wasn't harsh, just honest. He looked at her like he'd never looked at anyone before. "I haven't cared about being anywhere, until now." Rachel studied him, then nodded once, slowly. "Then don't make promises you can't keep." Jack nodded back. "I won't." That night, Rachel found a folded napkin left on the kitchen table. Inside, a small note in Jack's handwriting. "From now on, I don't just want a seat at your table. I want to earn it." And for the first time in a long time, she smiled and believed him. Chapter 5. The Confession in Her Eyes. Jack hadn't meant to stay so late. He'd only dropped by to return Emily's forgotten sketchbook. But one story turned into two. Rachel's tea turned into shared laughter. And before he knew it, the clock read 10:47 p.m. The girls were asleep. The apartment was quiet again. And Rachel was sitting across from him on the couch, her legs curled under her, fingers wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug. Jack was holding his own cup, untouched, more focused on the woman in front of him than anything else. "Emily talks about you constantly," Rachel said with a faint smile. "Lily too, even if she just calls you the tall guy." Jack chuckled, then softened. "And what about you?" he asked. Rachel blinked. "What about me? What do you think of me?" The room fell still. No echo, just her shallow breath, the distant hum of the city outside. She didn't answer with words. Instead, she looked at him, and in that look was everything. Regret, hope, confusion, warmth, a whisper of fear. as a spark of something she didn't want to name yet, but couldn't hide anymore. Jack leaned forward just slightly, not enough to touch her, but enough for her to feel it. "Rachel? There's something I need to tell you." She didn't look away. "I know," she said. His brow furrowed. "Know what?" This started as guilt, but it didn't stay that way. Jack froze. She knew. "You looked at my daughter like she mattered. You sat at our table like it was a home. You come back, even when it's inconvenient." "I see it, Jack." Her voice trembled, not from weakness, but from truth. "That's how I know it's real now." Jack closed his eyes for a second. No one had ever read him like this. No one had ever seen through the layers of polished suits and executive bravado, straight to the man underneath. When he opened his eyes again, she was still watching him. Still waiting. "You scare me," he admitted. She blinked. "Me?" "Yeah, because with you I care too much, too fast, and I don't know how to be careful about it." Rachel set her mug down slowly. Then she reached out and placed her hand gently over his. Not a kiss, not a confession, just that touch. But it was more than enough. They sat like that for a long time. Two people, both hurt in different ways, learning to stay instead of run. No words, no plans. Just quiet, fragile beginnings. Across the room, Emily's drawing lay on the counter. The restaurant table, 3 chairs. This time, all of them were full. Chapter 6. The day everything changed. It started like any ordinary morning. Cereal crunching in small bowls, Lily humming to herself in her pajamas, Emily braiding her own hair in front of the hallway mirror. Rachel sipping lukewarm coffee, staring at the calendar, counting shifts, bills, hours. And Jack wasn't there, but he had sent a voice message. "Good luck at your big school meeting, Chef Emily, and Rachel, I miss you." Just those words. But Rachel replayed them 3 times. By noon, everything broke. Rachel's phone rang while she was refilling hand soap at the store. It was the school. Emily had fainted during recess. Rachel's breath vanished. She dropped everything and ran. By the time she reached the school, Emily was sitting up on a cot, pale but smiling. "I'm okay, Mom. I was just really tired." Rachel clutched her, heart racing, eyes filling. Have you been eating enough?" Emily nodded. "I just skipped breakfast to pack Lily's snack. It's fine." "Isn't?" Rachel knew it wasn't. That night, after the girls were asleep, Rachel stood at the sink, trembling. Guilt pulsed through her. Her daughter had fainted. Because she had tried to care for her little sister. Because Rachel couldn't do it all. The dam cracked. She sank to the kitchen floor and wept silently into her hands. The knock came softly. He was holding a bag of groceries, unaware. Until he saw her. And then he dropped everything. In 2 strides he was kneeling, wrapping her into his arms. She resisted, just for a moment. But then she collapsed against him. "She fainted, Jack," she whispered. "At school. Because I wasn't enough." He didn't speak, just held her. Because sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is hold space for someone else's breaking. Later, when the silence settled, Jack spoke. "You're more than enough, Rachel. But you've been carrying too much alone." She didn't argue. She just leaned into him. "I don't want pity." "This isn't pity," he said. "This is me. Choosing you. All of you. Every messy, hard, beautiful part." And right there, in that tiny apartment kitchen, beside the sink of unwashed dishes and the sound of Emily's soft breathing down the hall, everything changed. Not because of something dramatic, but because for the first time, someone showed up and stayed. Without asking her to be perfect. Without needing her to pretend. Rachel closed her eyes, still resting in his arms. "I'm scared," she said. "Me too," Jack replied. "But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you." That night, for the first time in years, Rachel didn't fall asleep worrying if she could make it through tomorrow. Because someone was finally there, just quietly holding the storm with her. And that changed everything. Chapter 7. The truth behind his name. Jack stood at the window of his penthouse, the city glowing beneath him like a dream he no longer belonged to. In his hand was an old HR report from Turner Markets. Rachel's name, her dismissal, his signature. Proof of what he had done. Proof of the world he had built on the backs of people like her. He stared at the paper for a long time before folding it in half, slipping it into his coat pocket, and walking out the door. Rachel was surprised when he showed up that late. His tie was gone, his sleeves rolled up. But something about him was different. Heavy, quiet, like a man standing in front of a mirror, finally seeing himself. She let him in without question. The girls were asleep. The room was dim, the only light coming from the kitchen over the sink. Rachel poured them both tea, and Jack didn't speak until the second cup. Then, slowly, he pulled the folded paper from his coat and laid it on the table. "I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to all of it, even if it hurts." Rachel didn't touch the paper. She just looked at him, waiting. "My full name is Jack Turner," he said. The air left the room. Rachel's hand trembled slightly as she reached for the paper. He didn't read it. She didn't need to. She had already guessed. But hearing it still broke something. "You knew?" she whispered. "All this time?" Jack shook his head. "I found out after I'd met Emily, after I sat in her restaurant, after I couldn't stop thinking about you." Silence filled the space between them like fog. Rachel looked down at her hands, then back at him. "You signed the order." It wasn't a question. Jack nodded. "I did." "You approved my firing? You helped shut down the store? You—" "Yes," he whispered. "I did. I never saw names, just numbers, charts. I didn't know. It was you." Rachel stood up and walked to the window. She crossed her arms. Her voice was steady. "I told Emily that love is shown in what people choose to do when it's hard, when it costs something." He turned. "So tell me, Jack, what are you choosing now?" Jack crossed the room slowly. Not to beg, not to explain, but to be real. "I'm choosing to show up, to fix what I can, to rebuild what I helped break, starting with you." He paused. "And I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I had to tell you the truth, because anything less would make everything between us a lie." Rachel stared at him for a long time. Then finally, she nodded. "Once, you came back," she said quietly. "I did. And you told me the truth." "I did. And we'll see what you do next." She didn't ask him to leave. She didn't say she forgave him. But she didn't close the door either. And in that silence, in that pause, was the beginning of something more honest than anything they'd ever had. In the other room, Emily mumbled in her sleep. Rachel looked toward the hallway. Then back at Jack. "I don't trust easily, Jack Turner." "Then I'll earn it," he said. And for the first time since the day she was fired, Rachel breathed without bitterness. Because now she knew the face behind the name. And that truth mattered more than any apology. Chapter 8. The dinner that changed everything. The pasta was simple. Tomato, garlic, a touch of basil. But the moment felt like something sacred. Rachel stirred the pot while Emily bounced beside her in a tiny apron, cheeks flushed with excitement. Lily sat in her high chair, babbling to a stuffed animal, like she was in her own world. And when Jack knocked, it wasn't like a guest arriving. It felt like something, or someone, that belonged. He brought dessert. Nothing fancy, just soft chocolate pastries in a paper bag that smelled like Sunday mornings. Rachel smiled as she opened the door. Right on time. He stepped in, took off his coat and rolled up his sleeves like it was instinct. "What can I do?" The kitchen became a dance. Rachel gave him the salad bowl. Emily assigned him napkin duty. He folded them carefully, watching Rachel when she wasn't looking. He noticed her hands, no longer red from scrubbing floors. He noticed her eyes, calmer, brighter. She had changed. But so had he. At dinner, Emily raised her glass of water. Jack. "Our first customer. And the reason our restaurant serves real food now." Rachel added softly, "The family chosen or found." And for the first time in his life, Jack felt like the toast was meant for him. Not because of what he had, but because of who he was becoming. Later, Emily showed him her newest drawing. 4 stick figures, holding hands. Rachel, Emily, Lily, and him. In the corner, a little lunchbox with stars on it. Rachel caught him staring. "You're in all her pictures now," she whispered. Jack swallowed the lump in his throat. "She's in all of mine too, I just didn't know it until now." After dinner, Rachel washed dishes while Jack dried. The girls fell asleep on the couch in a tangle of blankets. And for a moment, it was just the two of them. No past, no wait, just now. "You stayed," she said, rinsing the last plate. "I did, even after I knew who you were. Especially after." She looked at him, really looked, her voice barely a breath. "What are we doing, Jack?" He smiled. "I don't know. But for once, I'm not afraid of finding out." And neither was she. Not anymore. That night, as he left, she didn't close the door right away. She watched him walk down the stairs, then looked back at the table, his napkin folded into a heart. Underneath, a note. "Food is love, family is strength. Thank you for letting me be part of yours." Rachel held the note to her chest. And for the first time in years, she felt safe enough to believe in something again. Maybe not in promises, but in people. Chapter 9, the speech that left everyone in tears. The classroom was too small for all the parents. Plastic chairs creaked under adult weight. The air smelled of crayons and anticipation. Paper flowers hung from the windows, trembling every time the door opened. Rachel sat in the back, trying to smooth the creases of her dress. Jack sat beside her, his fingers brushing hers once, then staying. Emily was third on the list. She walked up to the little platform with her braids slightly loose and her 2 lunchboxes, one old, one starry, clutched in her small hands. She didn't hesitate. "Hi, my name is Emily Miller, and I want to talk about how food is love." The room fell still. "This," she said, lifting the faded lunchbox, "was mine when we didn't have much. Sometimes it was empty. So my mom said we should pretend it was a restaurant." A ripple moved through the crowd, nervous glances, stiff shoulders. "I served invisible food, sandwiches made of air, juice made of hope." She smiled. "And then, one day, someone sat at my table and pretended to eat. That was Jack." Jack looked down, his throat tight. Rachel was already crying. "My mom always said love doesn't need money, just care. So she wrote me little notes. 'I'm sorry, I promise I'll send something tomorrow.' That's what she wrote when there was no food." Gasps, soft sniffles. Emily raised the new lunchbox. "Now I have real food, real lunches, real notes. But I still play restaurant sometimes. Because I learned something." She paused, looked at every face, even the ones trying not to meet her gaze. "Food isn't just for your belly, it's for your heart." Then her eyes found Jack. When someone shares food, they're saying, "I care. You matter." My mom always cared. Jack did too. The room erupted in applause. Real, shaky, grateful. Even the teacher wiped her eyes. Rachel squeezed Jack's hand. He didn't let go. Afterwards, strangers approached them. One mother whispered, "Thank you for raising her." Rachel said nothing, just smiled through her tears. She didn't raise Emily alone. Not anymore. That night, over macaroni and mismatched napkins, Emily made a toast. Pretending when things were hard. To real food. To not being alone. And this time, it wasn't a game. It was their life. Oh, honest. Loved. When a child taught the billionaire to give back. The school courtyard smelled of cinnamon and fresh-baked bread. Jack stood by the gates, watching kids spill out like sunlight, laughing, tugging backpacks, waving goodbye. But he wasn't watching them. He was waiting for one girl, and when Emily spotted him, her voice rang out. "Jack, I shared my lunch today, just like you did for me." She ran to him, hair undone from play, eyes bright. "Mia never brings food, so I gave her half my sandwich." Jack knelt to meet her eyes. "It was really kind of you." Emily shrugged. "Love grows when you give it away, right?" That night, Jack couldn't sleep. He saw her face, her joy, her dignity. He remembered the spreadsheet where she was just a line item's daughter. But not anymore. Not to him. The next day, he returned to the school. Not for Emily, but for every child with a hidden empty lunchbox. He sat in the principal's office, leaned forward, and simply said, "I want to feed them. All of them. No more hungry kids in this school. No red tape, no PR, no donations for applause. Just food. Every day, for every child." He called it Lunch for Everyone. Turner Markets paid for it. Jack designed it. Fresh meals, quiet dignity, no sign-ups, no labels. Rachel helped shape the menu, healthy, warm, made with love. The first day, the cafeteria buzzed like spring. Laughter. Full plates. No whispers of who could or couldn't afford to eat. Emily ran to him, her voice full of light. Nobody's pretending anymore. Later that week, Jack passed a new bulletin board. It was covered in crayon drawings from the kids. One stood out. A tall man holding a lunchbox. A girl in a braid. Smiling kids all around. In shaky handwriting at the bottom. "Thank you, Jack." He didn't cry, but something inside him melted into something purer. Rachel stood beside him. "You did this," she whispered. "No," he said, voice low. "Emily did, you did. I just followed the light." Now Jack picked her up from school on Mondays. Shared dinners on Fridays. We learned to fold napkins like hearts because Emily said it made meals more special. He stopped measuring time in meetings and quarterly profits. Started measuring it in school pickups, laughter, and bedtime stories. The man who once lived in silence now lived in a house full of crayons, noodles, and tiny feet padding across hardwood floors. And on his fridge, a simple note, in Emily's handwriting. "Thanks for never letting my lunchbox be empty again." It started with a girl too proud to cry, and a man too rich to feel. But love doesn't ask who you are or what you've lost. It simply says, "Sit, eat. You're not alone anymore." The sun had nearly set. Golden light spilled across the kitchen counter where a lunchbox sat. Empty now, but not forgotten. Rachel watched Emily pack her things for tomorrow. Beside her, Lily giggled as Jack helped tie her little shoes, pretending each knot was magic armor. Funny how life could change. Once, Jack Turner was a man who never noticed a child's hunger. Now, he could spot it in a single glance across a schoolyard. Once, he read charts and closures. Now he read lunchbox notes, handwritten, with hope and slices of tomato hearts. That night, as they sat around a tiny dinner table lit by candle stubs and laughter, Jack lifted his water glass. Not to impress, not to lead, just to feel, to pretending when things were hard, to real food, to real family. Rachel didn't speak, just smiled, and that was enough. Later, when the girls had gone to sleep and the dishes were done, Jack stood at the kitchen sink and looked around. No penthouse, no boardroom view. Just soft light, clean dishes, a woman humming under her breath as she folded laundry, two girls dreaming in peace. And somehow, this felt richer than everything he'd ever owned. Rachel joined him. She said nothing. Tara just slipped her hand into his, the way you do when silence says more than 1,000 words. He looked at her. "I never expected to find you here, in a place like this. But I'm glad I did." Rachel smiled. Love doesn't care where it starts. Just that it's real. And it was. Real, unscripted. Like the moment a billionaire first saw an empty lunchbox and didn't walk away. So if you're still listening, maybe this story wasn't about Jack or Rachel. Maybe it was about you. About the part of you still pretending not to need love. Still telling yourself I'll be okay with nothing just so no one sees your hunger. But what if someone sat down beside you? What if they said, "Your restaurant's open, and I'm staying"? Would you believe them? Would you dare? Because sometimes love doesn't roar in like a storm. Sometimes it's a soft lunchbox. A note that says, "I promise tomorrow will be better." A child sharing her last bite because she remembers what it's like to have none. And if that made you feel something, even for a second, then maybe you're not alone either. Maybe we're all just people learning how to eat, how to feel, how to share.